to do something like take you through like a practical exercise today about goal setting. Okay. And it's important to, of course, have goals, and know how to set proper realistic goals. But I think what's really overlooked is how important it is to make sure that your goals are flexible and that you're ready for them to change, to shift, to look different, to take longer, to happen faster. Just be flexible and with your expectations of what your journey will like towards that goal or look like towards that goal. And I think that's overlooked because there's no goal in existence that anybody has ever set that has had a linear path to get there. You understand? There's not one single goal in existence. And especially the huge, big, amazing accomplishments out there, the inventions, all of that stuff, they had the most non-linear journeys of all. So for you to expect it to start and then end in a very simple, easy, linear fashion, not realistic, not going to happen. I'll knock that idea right out of your head right now, right? And I've not had a single client, not one client, and I don't know of one person ever that had a goal of losing weight that lost weight every week for an entire year straight. Never. Never, never. That is a long time, right? And if it was that easy to just say, I'm going to do something and then start, and then the path just, unrolled real quick, just like that, then we'd all, we wouldn't need coaching. We wouldn't need help. We wouldn't need books. We wouldn't need Google. We wouldn't need all these extra aids, right? So there's not one person I know that has a linear journey and that can start and get there without roadblocks, obstacles, challenges, and being flexible with what they thought their journey would look like, okay? So having said that, I want you ladies to think about 2022, okay? It's right around the corner. New Year's coming up. And I want you to kind of think of your year in a snapshot, okay? So 2022, what do you got going on, right? What does a normal year look like for you? And then on top of that, any big plans that year? So do you have any weddings coming up? Do you have any big vacations, any big work stuff? Like anything of note that you know in advance happening in 2022, okay? Now on top of that, think about what a regular year would look like for you, right? Of things that would happen that would throw you off track or just make your routine harder to stick to or throw you off of it for a little bit. So an example for me, July is a month where my family has 15 to 20 birthdays, and we celebrate every single one of them individually, and every single one of them gets their own cake. So that's a rough month for me. That's a month where I have to be very conscious of my health, and also I have to be very flexible with my goals that month and what I expect of myself because of the insane increase in temptation, right? So that's what I want you to think about. What are the big plans happening? And then what are the moments, the ups and downs through a regular year for you, right? Is December a month that you have to be ready to be flexible for because of all the family gathering, the big events, the big dinners, right? Is the summertime a season where you need to be more flexible because that's when you like to socialize, that's when you like to go out and drink more, right? So think about what and when in a year would you need to be more flexible, right? From, January to March, I can be super strict and rigid. And then, April comes around and I got Easter or whatever. Think about that, okay? So I want you to prepare. 2022, when do you need to be flexible? Okay? Now, obviously, there's going to be things that happen that we think we can be strict in and then we end up having to be flexible. That's life happening. That's not the stuff I'm talking about. I'm talking about the stuff that we can actually plan for, okay? So I want you to have thought about that year just for a little quick second, okay? Now, what I need you to realize is that you have permission. You have it from your coaches, and you should be having it from yourself. You have permission to slow down, to change your goal, to have your original goal not be as important to you, to have the journey towards that goal look different than you thought, to have it take longer than you thought. You have permission to completely change the vision you had in your head. You have permission, okay? There will be times where you need to maintain. There will be times where you can go all in on weight loss. There will be times where you need to accept that maybe you're going to gain a little bit, right? And it is only by anticipating those as much as possible, accepting it, not trying to fight it, and being flexible with your goals, that you will actually still reach that bigger goal. If you fight through these periods where you should be, a little bit more relaxed, a little more go with the flow, if you try to fight that, we end up blowing out somewhere else in our year. And then we are losing the opportunity to shorten those bad times if we try to fight the bad times. Because they're going to be there. We can't stop them, but we can, blow past them as fast as we can. Personally, can we cope with them? That's what we have control over, okay? So, having said that, I'm giving you permission to plan out some maintenance time in your year in 2022. When do I know that I need to relax? When do I know that I need to not be so rigid and strict? I'm giving you permission, because once you give yourself permission there and you're okay with it, you can fly past it. Like really and truly. You can, not only are you in it and enjoying it and being present, right? Whereas the opposite would be fighting it, feeling guilty, feeling in shame, trying to double down and fix it and reverse it, right? All that not fun. And then you end up looking back on the time period, not having enjoyed it, wondering where it went because it went by so slow or so fast and you didn't really know what was happening. And then you have a bad taste in your mouth and you're trying to overcompensate coming out of it when you can really just embrace what it's supposed to be. So there's a fine line between being over here, being rigid and strict and being okay with that and life allowing you to be that strict. And then there's a fine line on the other side where it's no, you can slow down right now. You have to give yourself some slack with what you're capable of. This doesn't happen overnight. And then that fine line is, not being super anal about messing up, but also not being flexible, not using that as an excuse to say, screw it for a little bit, right? There's a fine line, and we've probably all gotten there like a little bit, right? Where we messed up, we felt bad about it. We knew feeling bad about it made the situation worse. So we try to forgive ourselves and move on. But then, while trying to do that, we went too far to the other side and we said, oh, I deserve it, or oh, it's just this once. Wait, we've already been in that type of cycle, right? The best example would be like a weekend to a Monday, right? It always happens. We screw up on a Saturday. We try not to feel too bad about it. And then if we go too far to that comfortable side, we say, screw it, I'll just start Monday. And then you end up screwing up Sunday too. Whereas if, you had your only daughter's wedding on the Saturday, right? And you told yourself, I'm going to enjoy myself. You'd feel so satisfied by the Sunday, you wouldn't want it to carry over. You'd have left it all in that Saturday and you felt content. And that's the difference here. So how can we stay in that line, right? How can we be strict and stick to something really, really well, and then give ourselves some grace to be flexible as life takes us through those ups and downs. So how do we do that? It's something called the grading system, okay? I call this the grading system simply because any chance where you're thrown out of your routine is a test. You're being tested. So you might as well grade yourself afterwards. Because if you don't reevaluate your performance, how you did, you don't really know where you should focus your studies next time, right? We don't really know where we should be studying. We could be studying the wrong thing and we're not prepared. So the grading system, very simple. I want you to just ask yourself, what would an A+ look like for me after this situation? So whether it's Christmas Day, whether it's your birthday, whether it's a night out with the girls, whatever it is where you've given yourself permission to be flexible, ask yourself, what would an A+ performance look like? And go through that. Go through that step by step by step. Now that's your A+. Okay? Now let's play devil's advocate. What would an F look like? What would a complete and utter failure look like? Where I'm upset, I'm guilty, and I feel like garbage. What would a failure look like? Right? And then you say, okay, what would a passing grade look like? What if I got like a C? What if I just passed? Where I didn't feel horrible, I didn't feel guilty, I could have done a little bit better, but I'm okay with my performance because I know I still tried, right? What's the C grade for you? The A+, the F, and the C. And it's so cool. Once you kind of played out these scenarios, it gets really cool because this is something you do before every time you go into it, right? So you've looked at your year on a macro level. Now we bring it down to before the day on a micro level, and you just set your grades. You set your grades, okay? You have the expectations beforehand. And it's really cool because they give you something to compare to. Instead of comparing yourself to someone else, instead of comparing yourself to a different time, right? You have something to compare how you're feeling and what you're doing and how to adjust, right? Because we're all gonna go into it wanting an A+, right? We're all gonna go into it being like, okay, A+ is my goal. Then if it goes a little bit south, you can take a breath and say, okay, I'm at a C level now. What do I need to do at the C level to save this? And the difference between an A and a C, not very far. So you can get comfortable at your C, or you can pull yourself back to an A. And then worst case scenario, that C turns into an F. You've already played that out in your head. And guess what? The F is not far off from the C. So you can save yourself from saying, screw it, F it, but F it. And you can go straight to the C because they're not far and it doesn't take much to clean it up a little bit. You're not jumping from an F and trying to save it with an A. You have these little jumps you can do all night long, if you need to pull yourself into the grade that you'd be happy with, right? Even if it goes to an F, there's not much difference for you to save it and turn it into a C. There's not much difference. And now that is what you measure everything by. And every time you have a new thing come up, a new event, a new whatever, a new point in your life, a new phase in your life, where you're struggling, you're not motivated, something's thrown you off, every day you could use this. Every day, what does my A, my F, and my C look like? And then that's your measuring tool throughout the day, right? And you want to try and end on a C. You want to end on a C because guess what a C means? C means you frickin' passed. You passed. That's all you have to do. You don't have to ace it. How could you ace it? How could you ace it? You haven't been studying long enough. You spent so many years becoming an expert at being unhealthy, at being unmotivated, at having no willpower, at being lazy, at not working out, at giving into temptation. You've got A's in all those subjects, right? So all you have to do is wake up during those times where you've given yourself permission to be flexible and work towards a C. Start at an A, allow for a C. If we go into F, pull back to a C. And then you can relax. You can feel accomplished. You can say, I passed. That's important because when we do something bad, our mind automatically tells us we failed and we had an F. And if we have an F, nothing else after that F matters because we've already failed. That is not that case. You can turn any F into a passing grade just by trying something after the first time you fail. You don't have to write off the entire night. You don't have to write off the week or the month just because something didn't go according to plan. You can always bring it back. And that is what I want you to take with you over the weekend. Christmas is this weekend. Boxing Day, Christmas Eve, then we've got New Year's Eve, then maybe you've got sporadic holidays in there. This is what I want you to take with you, okay? Be realistic, right? What is normally happening in the month of December for you, right? What is your big goal? And do you need to be flexible with that goal for this weekend? That's a question you answer yes or no with. The answer is yes. You say, okay, I want everybody right now to think about the first thing they have coming up. What's the first dinner or party you have coming up. Think about it, have it in your head. What's an A+ look like? Take a second. A+. You get there, you socialize, you laugh so much, you're so busy, so distracted, you forget about food. Then finally everybody's eating. You pile your plate with the good stuff. You don't have any of the bad stuff because you're not interested. You're perfectly satisfied, not overly uncomfortably stuffed. You leave the table, you're not picking, right? And you leave the dinner feeling awesome, right? What like play through A+. What's an A+? And then an F. What do you really hope doesn't happen? What would make you really upset with yourself? What would make you really uncomfortable in your body, physically and mentally? Play out that F. And then realistically, now we have that C. Your passing grade. What do you have to do? Grade yourself. If when it's all over, all you did was pass, and you're like, okay, I'll take it. What would that look like? And that is going to be your goal. That is your path. That is your light. That is where you measure everything. That is what you use to say good or bad in your mind. Because let me tell you, good or bad, I mean, they're not great words, and we shouldn't be judging things good or bad, right? We can judge them as healthy and unhealthy, but our bodies are going to do good, bad, right? That's what our minds have been trained to do. So you're going to have a good, you're going to have a bad, right? Now, since you have that C, that's your good. And that would have been your regular bad, right? But now you've said, for today, my bad is my good. And so you feel good doing your bad. Isn't that crazy? And that's a good thing. And you can relax. You can relax and be accomplished and proud and ready to tackle the next thing. The next thing. Ready to set your new grades for the next thing. And these grades change. An A+ will look different. A C will start to look different over the times. That the more times you can produce a C, the better it will look, right? One day your current A will look like your future C. How cool is that? One day your current A+ will look like a future C. What's perfect to you now will one day be your bad. That's how good you're going to get with practice. So don't miss out on that opportunity, and don't rely on feelings to determine whether or not you think you're on the right track. Don't let how you feel about something dictate how you should continue to feel and react. You want to act. You don't want to react to what you do. The reactions are what have made you make bad decisions in the first place. You acted on an impulse. And then if you're going to judge yourself with an impulse, you're going to end up in this impulsive cycle, and you're going to leave feeling very bad about yourself because you exercised no control and no willpower. And that doesn't make anybody feel good. It'll make the situation feel like a whirlwind, where all you're doing is thinking about what you did and what you shouldn't have done. And then you're not there, you're not present, and you're missing the point of what these are for. So for the holidays, for anything coming up, I want you to practice the grading system, okay? If it's a situation where you think you can continue to be strict, be strict. If it's a situation where past has dictated that you must accept that you can only be flexible, grade yourself accordingly. Aim for that C, okay? It will keep you hyper-focused on the right things instead of unrealistically focused on things that will just make the whole, like, just set yourself up for failure. You'll have failed before you even started, whatever it was, before you even stepped in the room, because you don't believe yourself, right? Before everything, you don't want to be afraid. Before every dinner, before every party, before every vacation, you don't want to be afraid of how far back it's going to push you. You don't want to be afraid because you don't know if today is going to be the day that you overindulge. You can't live like that. And I don't care if you lose weight. If you still think like that, the weight will come back. So that's something that needs to be worked on while you lose weight. And you can only do that by testing yourself. And you cannot possibly pass every test right? Which means, guess what? Or there's going to be weeks where we can't lose the weight because we failed a test. But you can keep trying, and the more reps you put in, the more chances you have to reach that C. Every time you reach a C, every time you have something that you're anxious about and it's done and you're like, okay, I survived. That's perfect. That's all you need. It's not like, man, I crushed that. You don't need that. You're like, I survived. That's what I'm looking for. Note it down, record it, take a selfie video, write it down, record it. Remember these reps. Remember, you're building up the evidence to prove to yourself that you can do this no matter what life throws at you. No matter what life throws at you. Life is not kind. Life is not fair. Life is very hard sometimes. So you have to accept that and realize that your goals have to fit into that somehow. Right? It's not going to be like sunshine and rainbows if that's the world we live in. It just doesn't line up. And you're always going to be disappointed and always stop short of your goal if you think like that. Does that make sense, ladies? If you think it's going to be an awesome journey, sunshine and rainbows, you know, I'm going to be super motivated the whole way through, nothing's going to challenge me, you're going to be broken, and you're going to be so discouraged. It's going to be so hard to pull you out of that. And you don't need to do that to yourself. Be flexible. Accept a passing grade. You guys are just learning. That's okay. I'm still learning. Really and truly. And it's fun. And it's cool to share what you learn with everybody who's learning the same things. Because it's so cool watching people's minds expand. And it's so cool looking back a year, realizing your mind has expanded. You're not the same person. You actually kind of like who you're becoming. You can live with this person. You're proud of this person. This person's beautiful to you. That's what we're working towards. All right, ladies. So use that tactic for all your dinners, your parties, whatever's happening for Christmas, New Year's, and plan out your 2022 with kind of where we're going to need to be flexible, and start incorporating that grading system so you can give yourself some grace and you can just enjoy life more, and health fits into it. Health doesn't have to stop it, or you don't have to stop health to live life. Okay? It's all going to blend together. Just takes a little bit of practice.